Welcome to On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale. In this gripping YouTube series, Detective Cardinale delves into the most notorious crimes that have captivated America. Which crime will be discussed tonight? Will it be a mass shooting, a murder, a rape, or a bank robbery? Whatever it is, it shocked America. Step into the world of crime investigation as Detective Cardinale uncovers the truth behind the crime. Delve into the web of intrigue surrounding the suspects involved in the crime. Detective Cardinale will analyze their motives, alibis, and connections to the crime. Don't miss out on the thrilling journey of uncovering the truth. On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale goes live on air right now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to an all-new episode of On the Case with me, Detective Alex Cardinale. Today, we're going to learn about a homicide that took place in 2012, and it was the murder of Ronald William March. The title of this episode is Fear Thy Friend. We are going to talk about a crime that shocked Canada in 2012, and it really impacted restraining orders in the country of Canada. This crime was also featured on ID Discovery in 2022, so it was a recent crime that was featured on ID Discovery. I believe the episode it was on is Fear Thy Neighbor. That is how I learned about this case, and that is why I'm talking about it here on the Case. It is a horrific crime. The victim, Ronald March, had some illnesses that made him prone to easy attack. In other words, because of his illnesses, he was an easy victim for someone to bully and physically attack. Unfortunately, Mr. Ronald March was taken advantage of by a female who he thought was a friend, and that friend ended up lying and telling her boyfriend or someone that loved her that Ronald was being abusive towards her, and thus creating an enemy with Ronald March. So, on this episode of On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale, we're going to our neighbors of the north. We're going to Canada. It's a crime that shocked Canada in 2012. It is the stabbing homicide of Ronald William March. So feel free to share your thoughts on this crime in the comments. Let's go ahead and get started. A vicious attack in an alley in Burn Bay, British Columbia, Canada, left Ronald March dead in August of 2012. The authorities quickly found the person responsible, though since both men had a history of animosity. Discovery's Fear Thy Neighbor, Hell Bent, focuses on the events leading up to Ronald's death and how the tragic attack occurred. So today, we're going to learn about the murder and homicide of Ronald March. Now, let's learn about the victim. Let's learn about Ronald March. So, earlier in the show, I announced that Ronald March was someone who suffered from ailments from an illness, and he wasn't able to physically defend himself all the time. Well, Ronald William March was described as an avid reader and an intelligent man. Loved ones remembered the Vancouver resident as gentle and kind, always going out of his way to help others if needed. When the incident happened, the 57-year-old had just moved into a senior complex in Burn Bay, Canada. It was mentioned on the show that at that time, Ronald was taking medication for lupus, which is a autoimmune disease. And I believe at one time my mom had lupus. It's a devastating disease. Ronald lived in an apartment and was neighbors with a woman named Lorraine Rain, who had been living with a man named Lance Standberg. And Lance Standberg is our suspect in today's case. Lorraine dealt with many health issues and relied on Lance for help. He took care of her, but people speculated about the nature of their relationship. Many people thought Lorraine and Lance were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they probably were. However, given that Lance was a seasonal oil worker, he was away from home for days at a time. According to the show, Lorraine began relying on Ronald March, and Ronald would help her move things and drive her to buy groceries. But over time, that became difficult for Ronald because of his health issues. During one instance, Ronald was driving Lorraine somewhere when she lit up a cigarette. As per the show, Ronald asked her to put the cigarette off, but she didn't, leading him to shove her out of the car. Lorraine then accused Ronald of hitting her, having him arrested before changing her mind and dropping the charges. After that, she told Lance about it, and he assaulted Ronald. The animosity continued, with Lance attacking Ronald another time. As per the show, Lance hit Ronald with a lead pipe. Ronald had reported it to the police, but they couldn't find Lance since he had taken off both times. Eventually, Ronald chose to move out of that apartment and completed the move on August 8th, 2012. Ronald did the smart thing. He got away from Lorraine, and he got away from the crazy man, Lance. Lance was someone who was delusional and someone who was victimizing someone with lupus and isn't really able to defend themselves. I mean, Ronald tried to defend himself, but he really couldn't. So he did the smart thing and he moved away. I think if Ronald filed a restraining order against Lorraine and Lance, he very well could still be alive. But with how crazy Lance is, I think he could have also broken that restraining order. It was later revealed that Lance, who was then 47 years old, recorded the move happening and was accused of following the truck. This is how deranged Lance was. He actually took out a camera and began filming the movers who were loading the truck, and then he followed the moving truck to Ronald's new apartment where Ronald moved to get away from Lorraine and Lance. So now let's learn about the murder of Ronald William March. And Ronald March died on August 8th of 2012. The very day he was said to move to his newest apartment to get away from these two psychopaths in Canada. August 8th, 2012. Ronald March was moving into a new senior citizen apartment complex. Suspect Lance Standberg, who was then 47 years old, recorded the move happening and followed the truck to Ron's new apartment. Lance filmed Ronald and the movers packing his things in the truck, and he was caught filming by the movers. But then he disappeared out of sight. It was later found out that Lance had hidden in the bushes to ambush Ronald later on at night. So Lance ended up laying in wait for Ronald, and he surprise attacked him. Again, with Ronald's health issues, a surprise attack would be very fatal to Ronald, and unfortunately, it was. So Lance was able to lie in wait and attack him from surprise and from behind like a total coward. Ronald, with his deteriorating health, was in no way capable of being able to fend off a knife attack, and he simply thought moving to a new neighborhood and a new apartment should end this conflict. However, Ronald was dealing with two sick individuals, a woman who was lying and a woman who thrived on drama, and a sick man who believed the drama and wanted retribution on a man who was ill. So you know how that ends. It's very, very tragic. So Lance was sick in the head, and for some odd reason, Lance had it out for Ronald because of the lies he was being fed. Sometime in the evening of August 8th, 2012, a neighbor heard screams and saw Ronald lying on the ground in a pool of blood behind the building in the 3400 block of Renfro Street. The neighbor immediately called 911, but it was too late by the time the authorities arrived. Ronald had been stabbed 12 times. His throat had been slit, severing his jugular artery, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. So Lance succeeded in killing Ronald March by stabbing him 12 times, slitting his throat, and severing his jugular artery. Very, very tragic. Now, 1 month prior to the murder, Lance had assaulted Ronald March twice. The second attack split Ronald's ear in two and left him hospitalized. I think if Ronald March filed a restraining order, maybe it would have a different ending. But it's a really, really sad case. I mean, Lance physically attacked Ronald a few times before his murder. Lance should have been arrested and allowed nowhere near Ronald. Unfortunately and sadly, Ronald March was stabbed a total of 12 times. That is overkill, in my opinion. He had a lengthy incision across his neck, which severed the artery and his airway, leading Ronald March to bleed to death outside his new apartment. Sadly, Ronald's death was a slow, agonizing way to go out, and he did not deserve to die that way. He did not deserve this horrific homicide. Unfortunately, this crime case is a good example of why you should always be careful with who you help out, because you don't know who they associate with or how they are personally. You don't know what their personality is like. In the case of Lorraine, she was very manipulative. She was very manipulative. Sorry, had a hard time pronouncing that word. But in other words, she was able to convince Lance that Ronald was doing wrong to the girl that he loved. And eventually, Lance began physically assaulting Ronald. It led to a point where Lance was seeking redemption on Ronald. He would stalk Ronald. He followed his moving truck to Ronald's new apartment. He even went inside the moving truck looking for belongings that he thought belonged to him. And then eventually he laid in wait in bushes to ambush Ronald and stab him 12 times. It is very, very tragic. I cannot imagine what was going through Ronald's head his very last few moments on Earth. I mean, it's probably horrific. He was probably trying to breathe while blood is pouring out of his neck. Very, very cruel way to die. So Lance was a nutcase and a white trash person, and he should have been put away. He was arrested during the early morning hours of August 9th after a brief police chase. After the arrest, Lance Standberg claimed to have nothing to do with the murder. When asked about why he was recording Ronald's move, he believed that Ronald had stolen something from his storage. However, the police found Ronald's blood in Lance's car. While his first trial didn't have a resolution for unknown reasons, he was eventually convicted of first-degree murder in his second trial in November of 2014. Lance was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I hope Lance has a vicious life in prison, and I hope Lance Standberg has a vicious death. Hopefully he has a slow, painful death like he did to Ronald March. There is no excuse for killing someone because the woman you love is manipulating you. That is crazy. So from what we can tell from the end of Fear Thy Neighbor, he is serving his sentence at a correctional facility in British Columbia, Canada. And that is the case of Ronald March, the man that was murdered in 2012. One of Canada's most shocking homicides. And it was a homicide from Canada that was talked about on ID Discovery, Fear Thy Neighbor, and a couple of other ID Discovery shows talked about this crime. And other crime networks also talked about it. It was mentioned on crime networks in Canada. It was mentioned on ID Discovery, which is broadcast in the United States of America. And I believe ID Discovery is now global. I believe it's available in many other countries as well. So this case went global in a matter of years. We're more than 10 years past the murder, and it's still being talked about, and it's still being shown on ID Discovery. I don't know what the restraining order laws are like in Canada, but I know in America, Ronald definitely had a case here to get a restraining order against LeRae and against Lance. He would have been granted it, no questions asked, no problems. But anyway, that is our crime case for this episode. I know it's a relatively short episode, but it's short and to the point. All right, right now we're going to take a quick intermission. And when I come back, I'm going to give my closing thoughts on this homicide that happened in Canada. If you've been watching since the beginning of this episode, be sure to share your thoughts on this crime in the comments, and I'll react to your thoughts as well. But for now, we're going to learn about some special upcoming live streams coming up on my YouTube channel. And when I come back, we'll give my closing thoughts on this crime, and I'll discuss the next crime that I'm going to talk about here on the case. On the next Saturday Live with Alex Cardinale, it's a surprise Saturday. We are celebrating the birthdays of 3 amazing people. Surprise! Saturday Live with Alex Cardinale is live Saturday, July 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on YouTube channel The Real Alex Cardinale. What surprises will be in store for these 3 birthday people? Plus, the cheetah is the animal of the week. The beagle is the pet of the week. The marble sailfin pleco is Oasis Aquatics featured fish. Alex is going to have facts on Yahoo and Google Drive. Alex will discuss birthday party surprises and birthday gift ideas and some fun summer treats. The South Florida featured business will be Palmero's Bakery and so much more. Who will be the Karens of the week and who will be assholes of the week? Find out Saturday, July 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on the very first ever surprise Saturday Live with Alex Cardinale right here on YouTube channel, The Real Alex Cardinale.
Surprise!
Surprise!
Aqua Alex is proud to announce that his hit series Life in the Amazon will be celebrating 50 episodes. Yes, that's right, Life in the Amazon will officially host its 50th episode. Live Wednesday, July 24, 2024 at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Aqua Alex will host this milestone episode of Life in the Amazon. To celebrate 50 episodes, Aqua Alex will be discussing some of the most unique animals that call the Amazon home. Come learn about green anacondas, capybaras, piranhas, macaws, black caiman, electric eels, river otters, and so much more. Plus, in honor of 50 episodes, Aqua Alex will be giving out facts on the Amazon River and rainforest and some of the animals that live there. Aqua Alex will also discuss Project Piaba. All that and more. 50th episode of Life in the Amazon airs live Wednesday, July 24, 2024 at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on YouTube channel The Real Alex Cardinale. Alex Cardinale, your host of today's live stream, will be turning 31 years old very soon. He is inviting you to be part of his 31st birthday celebration. He will be hosting a 31st birthday bash one day after his birthday. It will air live Friday, August 16, 2024, at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. It will be an awesome show and you are all invited. Come one, come all. Come and celebrate Alex's birthday. There will be lots of fun. Alex will show any new tropical fish he got. What cool fish will he get this time? Alex will also give an update on his current aquarium and also future aquarium plans. Plus, Alex will discuss what his goals are for the next year, play some of his favorite music, he will bake some awesome desserts, and so much more. Viewers are encouraged to tune in and have a good time. There will be a few surprises in store as well. A huge announcement will be made. What could it be? Happy 31st birthday, Alex Cardinale. Live Friday, August 16, 2024, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on YouTube channel The Real Alex Cardinale.
Welcome back to On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale, and today we have been talking about the homicide from 2012 in Canada and the murder of Ronald William March. And now we're going to get to my closing thoughts on this case. This is a crime that definitely shocked Canada, and it shocked people in the United States of America and people from all over the world who watched this crime case on ID Discovery's Fear Thy Neighbor. It definitely was a crime case that opened up to me about the importance of restraining orders. I think restraining orders are very important when it comes to dealing with psychopaths like Lance Standberg. I think Lance had a lot of mental issues. I think he was a bully, and he realized that Ronald was someone that was weakened by his lupus and his various medical conditions. And I think that Lance saw that he could physically and verbally abuse Ronald and unfortunately get away with it. The first time, Lance punched Ronald in the face, and then it progressively got worse. The second time, Lance split Ronald's ear in two, which made Ronald have to stay in the hospital for quite some time. And that made Ronald realize the dangerous situation that he was in. Unfortunately, as they say, third time's the charm. Well, in this case, the third time was the final time, because Lance stabbed Ronald over 12 times, and he stabbed him so good that he severed his major artery in his neck, causing him to bleed out instantly and die within minutes. So it's a very, very tragic case. I do have to say, though, that I believe that the Canadian police did not do their jobs in this case. I think if they had issued a restraining order, or at least recommended to Ronald to have a restraining order against Lance and Loretta, this could have been prevented. But it's just a sad case overall. I mean, it should have ended when Ronald moved away. When Ronald moved away, it indicated he wanted nothing to do with them anymore. But they were very sick in the head, and for some reason they wanted redemption, and unfortunately they got it. So my thoughts on this case, very tragic. My thoughts and prayers go out to Ronald March. That is not a way to go out. He was a good man, according to his family members. I did some research on Ronald March before today's show, and from what I've seen from his family members and his friends, he was someone that would give the shirt off his back, even though he had a couple of ailments from his medical conditions. So it's very tragic the way he lost his life. No one deserves to die like that. So my thoughts and prayers go out to the Ronald March family. All right, and that is everything for this episode of On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale. I hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Case, and if you did, please hit that like button. The like button helps, so please hit it if you enjoyed the show, and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Real Alex Cardinale, for future episodes of On the Case, and for fish keeping shows, cooking shows, wrestling shows, and more. I really am a YouTube channel that offers pretty much everything. So, on the next episode of On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale, we're going to talk about another sick individual. But this time, we're going to talk about someone who is supposed to take care of you when you're in the hospital. But this person betrayed people's trust. It was a hospital nurse who was working in the heart section of the hospital where they do heart surgeries. This case took place in Texas, and it was a killer nurse. So on the next episode of On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale, we're going to talk about William George Davis, who caused people to die by having a stroke by sending air, extra air, into their intravenous things, you know, like the IV needles they have. Well, when you put extra air in there, it travels up to the brain and it causes a stroke, a really bad stroke. And unfortunately, these strokes took the life of 4 people and forever changed the lives of a couple of others. So this is going to be one of those strange cases from Texas in the United States of America that we're going to talk about on the next episode of On the Case. Because of this crime, the United States government has now issued a warning and implemented a new system for how nurses handle patients after surgeries. They have to be okayed and cleared to enter a patient's room now. But anyway, on the next episode of On the Case, we're going to talk about the killer nurse, William George Davis. So, if you see a crime happening, say something. If you see a crime about to take place, never be afraid to call 911. And if someone is harassing you, if you have a neighbor harassing you, never be afraid to file a restraining order. A restraining order could be a lifesaver. Thank you for watching this episode of On the Case with Detective Alex Cardinale. I'm Detective Alex, and I will see you on our next case. I can't wait to crack the next case.
Thank you for watching this live stream on the Real Alex Cardinale YouTube channel. We hope you enjoyed today's live stream. Whether you learned about tropical fish, a crime, an American tragedy, or had fun on Saturday Live, your view is what keeps the great content coming. Thank you for supporting Alex Cardinale and watching this live. It's hard to believe we are quickly approaching 11 years together. Get ready for a big 11-year celebration taking place in New Jersey. Special thanks to our sponsor Oasis Aquatics for helping our channel grow. Looking for quality tropical fish? Check out oasisaquaticsnj.com. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Share this video on social media and let your friends view too. Remember, sharing is caring. Subscribe for more awesome videos. Thanks for watching and stay legendary. Goodbye for now. We will see you on the next live.